Welcome to the talk show Promising Bangladesh, sponsored by Crown Cement. Viewers, today we have got very special guest here, especially one of them, veteran freedom fighters and former police officer, Mr. Mahbub Ahmed, Bikram. Most of the members of the new generation hardly know him, but he is a legend in the history of the police service in Bangladesh. And he directly worked with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, and he was the then SP Dhaka. Especially during that time, he played a vital role in controlling law and order situation in the capital city. Other being Professor Forhad Hossain. You know very well, he's a political analyst and basically educationist. Well, Mr. Mahbub Ahmed, how are you?
Thank you very much. I'm quite well.
This is the first time that I'm going to meet you and see you in my life.
Well, that is my bad luck, I must say.
Well, you know very well the very birth of Bangladesh, and you were then. During the formation of government in exile, I mean Bangladesh government in exile, you were SDOP, Divisional Sub-Divisional Office, Police Officer in Mujibnagar.
Not in Mujibnagar, it was in
Jinaida. And I came to learn from your life history. You did during that time, you rendered the salute to the then acting president, Sayeed Islam. Usually, it was a part of army, defense forces. But what were the reasons for you doing these things?
Thank you, Dr.Sinha. It's my proud privilege to be able to talk to my nation through your august organization. And I'm further proud because you have raised a question which is a part of the history of the creation of this country. And I had the singular opportunity of rendering a service to the nation, for which my friends, you and many others, not only know me, they call me an icon of history. This is not a very small honor, it's a rare opportunity for any human being, because this kind of momentous situations, incidents, occurrences can come to somebody's life only if he is very lucky. It is God ordained, as a matter of fact. So I must thank you from the core of my heart for bringing me to this talk show today. And before I go to the subject, I must pay my respect and salute to our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, without which birth, without whose active participation, thinking, and positive approaches and steps to alleviate the suffering and miseries of the people of this part of the world. As you know, since time immemorial, and since the British times, 200 so many years ago, Bengal was a downtrodden area, and we had the unfortunate lot of people who suffered a lot, but we never bent our head. That is also a part of the history. So when the occasion rose, the whole nation rose up against the tyrannical government to subdue them, to destroy them, and to get hold of what we wanted for so many centuries under the leadership of our great leader, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. So let us stop there. We can call it the first independent sovereign republic of Bangladesh. And that should not be with any confusion. There should be no iota of doubt about the definition of this country. Many people, many big minds, many stalwarts said it is a Republic of Bangladesh, the Gano Jano Pradhanantri Bangladesh, independent Bangladesh. Nobody said independent Bangladesh. Most of them said government in exile. But the place where I was born, it was not in exile because I was inside my country. And the most important thing you must remember, not a single bullet was fired on Pakistan from the territory outside Bangladesh.
Thank you very much. I will come to you again.
Thank you.
Professor Forhad said, I raised the question of birth of government in exile. It is true, the origin was in Bangladesh, but later it was switched to Calcutta. And the government reigned from the soil of Calcutta. Basically, it was born in Bangladesh, later it was shifted because of so many things are here, because occupation forces are here. But Mr. Mahbub is very correct and right. Yes, it is. Bangladesh was born on the very soil of Bangladesh. This cabinet was born on the very soil of Bangladesh. I do agree with him, 100%. What is your study?
Thank you, Dr.Sinha, Ms. Sayeed. I am delighted today to have the privilege to talk in this session with a very, very colorful personality, the best son of the soil. It's a great privilege for me that I have come here to be the part of this show with a giant freedom fighter, the veteran freedom fighter, who is a Bir Bikram, contributed a lot to the emergence of Bangladesh as an independent country. Mahbub Uddin Ahmed Bir Bikram, and today it's a great privilege for me, and I must take this privilege exactly to salute him. Salute, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, the independence was declared by our father of the nation in 26th March. And the country had been emerged as an independent state. Then another process was following, according to the situation arise during the time. It is fact, you know. And Mahbub Uddin Bir Bikram said very correctly, the exile government, which has become a buzzword exactly to use before this government, the government took birth in the soil of Bangladesh, in Baidyanath Tola. Later on, it was named Mujibnagar. And it was the question from the foreign journalists and reporters that you have to form your government, particularly in your own territory, which might not be questioned at all. It is a fact, and so far my knowledge goes, about 50 reporters and journalists from home and abroad gathered there. And Mr. Mahbub Uddin Bir Bikram, the veteran freedom fighter, was the member of Pakistan Police Service. Civil Service. He was a member of the Central Superior Service of Police. He was the SDPO during the time, you know. And it was a great responsibility and also an obligation and also a passionate duty for him exactly to have the opportunity to give the guard of honor to the government. And the government was formed in the soil of Bangladesh, Baidyanath Tola. This is very, very important. And for the sake of the security, you know, because our land was being exactly gradually occupied by the occupying Pakistani army, you know, it was the question of security exactly to stay for the government in the soil of Bangladesh. And for the sake of security and for the help of the Indian government during the time, the government was shifted, the office was shifted into 8th Theatre Road, if I am not wrong. But the whole war against occupying army was taking place in the soil of Bangladesh. This is a fact. Every freedom fighter from top level to the bottom level had been fighting in the soil of Bangladesh during the time. and it is a matter of distinction, and we have to think over it. Shahid Tajuddin Ahmed, the first Prime Minister of independent Bangladesh, if I am not wrong, he was executing the office because of so many reasons, particularly security, because it was really tough for Mr. Tajuddin Ahmed exactly to hold the office of the Prime Minister in the soil of Bangladesh during this sort of at a time of war. It was a crucial moment for Bengali nation. And very important thing was that, if I am not wrong, Tajuddin Ahmed, Shahid Tajuddin Ahmed stepped in the soil of India in 31st March. 31st.
Well, you continue, I'll tell you.
Yes, okay. 31st April. Sorry, sir.
No.
31st April.
Well, he reached the soil of India on 29th of March.
29th
29th of March.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. 31st March it was mentioned.
No,
31st
it
March
can't
he
be.
stepped in the soil of
He
India.
stepped in the soil of India on 29th of March.
And
He was taken to Calcutta on 30th of March. He was taken to Delhi later on.
yes,
He first, as per my knowledge goes, as per the book of Mr. Barrister Amirul Islam,
Yes.
who was his constant companion
yes,
from the moment they started from Dhaka on 27th morning after the curfew was lifted. He was there with him throughout his journey from A to Z, from entry to exit.
yes,
So there he writes 3rd April.
yes,
There he writes that on 4th April, Mr. Tajuddin first met the Prime Minister on one-to-one basis.
Yes.
But his daughter confirmed me yesterday that Mr. Tajuddin has written somewhere.
Nandita
I have
Hassan.
not yet seen.
I'll come
Just
to
let me
because-
finish.
Yes,
I have not seen. She told me that he, in fact, had the first meeting with the Prime Minister of India on 3rd of April.
Okay, I will come to you.
okay, thank you.
Well, viewers, we're going for a short break and come to you very soon. Thank you. Well, viewers, we are back to the talk show again, Promising Bangladesh, sponsored by Crown Cement. We were having talks with Mr. Mahbub Ahmed, veteran freedom fighter, and Bir Bikram. At the same time, he was Superintendent of Police of Dhaka during that time under the direct command of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. In fact, he was one of the darling child of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Well, Mr. Mahbub, you are talking about the history referring to the daughter of Tajuddin Ahmed. Please go on.
Well, as Mr.
Forhad Hossain.
Mr. Forhad has mentioned that we have given guard of honor to the government of Bangladesh. The guard of honor is given to the chief guest in every occasion. So it fell on the shoulder of the acting president because he was the vice president, Mr. Sayeed Islam, and Bangabandhu was not available. So somebody had to preside over the government,
Yes,
its cabinet. So he was, for the time being, given the assignment to serve as acting president. And I gave him the guard of honor as the acting president of Bangladesh, not to his government, because other members of the government, if you see the picture, you will see that Mr. Tajuddin, the Prime Minister, was standing just behind the dais on which this guard of honor was being presented. So these are some very small, insignificant tidbit, but historically, I want to be correct. That's why I am mentioning this. And the most important point that you have missed, for the sake of my audience, I want to say, that since arrival in the Indian soil, after that, from 3rd or 4th April, whatever is correct, you can find out. Whatever happened between Mrs. Gandhi and Mr. Tajuddin was either verbally approved or given in writing as agreement. And whatever we have done as a government sitting in Calcutta was on the basis of that agreement.
Yes.
And that is, for two independent governments, it is absolutely acceptable under any international law. But you can say the government was not yet formed, that's true. But people, the Bangabandhu himself had nominated these people as main lieutenants. These 4 or 5, whatever, the 5th one I don't want to say. Mr. Sayeed Nazrul Islam, Mr. Tajuddin, Mr. Kamruzzaman, Mr. Mansur Ali. They were the topmost lieutenants of Bangabandhu during the non-cooperation movement of 1969, earlier and later throughout the war. They did all activities in the name of Bangabandhu. So whatever everybody else was doing in the form of a government, it was under the proper directives which was left by Bangabandhu before he was taken to custody by Pakistan. So the defense forces that we had constituted was by order of Bangabandhu, because on 7th, as you know, he said, whatever you have and wherever you are, fight. And he also said, whatever you have in your hand, you fight with it. And on this order, you know, in every village, defense committees were formed. And these defense committees were the basic political elements of Awami League at that time. And they were officially entitled to have these committees formed throughout the country, which was done. I am again a witness to that, because during this time, between 7th March and 17th March, I was virtually in Dhaka, sitting in the police control room. I knew what was happening, how much burning was done, how many killings were done, how many attempts were made by Pakistan to shoot the Bengali agitating masses. But because the order of the Bangabandhu was very clear, you maintain law and order at any cost. You do not provoke anything which will make me illegal or a criminal in the eye of the Pakistani law. That's why he had played the game of having negotiation with Yahya. Although he was already elected, he had every right to hold the parliament. But he gave chances to Yahya to make sure that everything goes with a situation of calm and peace. So for the sake of peace, he did not give any overt order or overt action. He went for non-cooperation movement absolutely on peaceful terms. He went to order his people to get ready on absolutely on peaceful terms. He never said, you start. He said, get ready. When on 7th he said, this is the day, the time for independence of Bangladesh, he did not say, go ahead and start fighting. He said, take preparation. And that is what I have seen between 7th and 17th. And on 18th, I went to my place where I was supposed to be as the police chief. And I immediately started organizing the people. Because I have seen in the streets of Dhaka that even women were parading with whatever. It could be dummy rifle, it could be bamboo sticks, but they were already active. So I went and I found that those who were already elected, they were also eagerly waiting to do something. I was like a matchbox for them. When I won, they said, okay, we are with you, do whatever you like. That's how I started preparation. And 25th, when the attack came, we countered, they started the war. And simultaneously, I distributed my arms on 25th afternoon, let's say 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. And the first move from the Jessore cantonment against our moves came at 11:30. And they reached my place around 12:30. They were under curfew by then, because I had proposed curfew all over the town. As soon as Pakistan started movement, he said, start blackout. So in the blackout they came, they could not find anything. I had already distributed my arms. So I told my people to just get away, because with the firearms in their hand, all those automatics, it's not possible to fight.
I will come to you, please. Professor Forhad said, you listen to what veteran freedom fighter and former police officer spoke from his own standpoint. How do you view all these things?
Yes, it is a very important thing. I am very much fortunate to have this giant freedom fighter, and he has disclosed many things very important, particularly in the history of independence. And in connection of his speech, I'd like to tell one thing, that Bangabandhu started thinking about independence many years before 1971. And so far my knowledge goes to study a book. An Indian diplomat was living in Dhaka, in Indian Deputy High Commission. He was Shashank Banerjee, and later on he became the High Commissioner of India in Britain. He was then first secretary in Dhaka. Bangabandhu made the connection with that very Indian diplomat with the Fazl Hussain Manik Mia. And he was a very important person, Shashank Banerjee, and he had a compassion for the people of Bangladesh. And it was easy for Bangabandhu to make a very serious proposal. So far, Indian government was prepared to help the people of Bangladesh if the people of Bangladesh demands independence. This is very important. And during the time Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister of India, he was a very stalwart person, having sagacity in the optimum level of politics, international politics, geopolitics, Asian politics, and everything. Bangabandhu had written a letter, and it was sent by Shashank Banerjee exactly through Indian Deputy High Commission to Prime Minister of India. And you know, Bangabandhu was eagerly waiting to get a reply from the Indian Prime Minister during the time. And the letter was duly received by Indian Prime Minister. And he had given a counseling to wait for this situation, because Indian government was mentally prepared to help Bangladeshi people, because the disparity and the persecution Bengali people had been facing during the time was well known to the Indian government, because it is a neighboring zone, you know, very next door neighbor country. And during the time, Nehru was not in a very convenient position exactly to help in a very extending way. And that is why he advised Bangabandhu to take some time. And he also assured that Jawaharlal Nehru used to know that Bangabandhu already had earned the reputation exactly to be an inflammatory speaker. And replying letter, it was a very secret letter, my son, you are a very great man. By this time you have very great person, particularly exactly to draw the attention of the people by your style of distinct style of speaking and delivery in the public meeting. You exactly continue this. One day all the people of your country will bring under your umbrella. Then you can take your decision. That was exactly, the Indian leadership was prepared to help Bangladesh during the time. And I would like to mention one of the names, Chittaranjan Sutar, who was a member of Pakistan Gana Parishad in 1954 in Provincial Assembly. He was a very trusted man to Bangabandhu, and Bangabandhu sent him in Calcutta, or he left Bangladesh. He was exactly making a certain kind of preparation for the government, Mujibnagar government, exactly, to manage the house, office, etc., etc. So far, we came to know. And Mr. Mahbub Ahmed Bikram already told. And other name of the three person I'd like to mention, who exactly took a Fokker plane from Agartala and went to Delhi to meet Indira Gandhi. One is Professor Rahman Subhan, and another is late Sirajul Haq, advocate, the father of present law minister, Mr. Anisul Haq, and
Professor Murshid,
Professor Khan Surar Murshid, and other were A.M.R. Chaudhuri from Chittagong. And they arrived there, and it was a very convenient position, particularly for, for Rahman Subhan, because Amartya Sen was there in Delhi University. He was teaching economics along his wife. His wife was the teacher of Bengali literature in the same university. And exactly the connection was made between P.N. Haksar, Parameshwar Narayan Haksar, and the team. Haksar exactly played a very important role, and D.P. Dhar, Durga Prasad Dhar, the two Kashmiri Pandits, they contributed a lot, particularly to form the government. It was a very difficult problem for the government of India to recognize Revolutionary Council. So Indian government started feeling the necessity of forming a government so that Indian government could support our war of independence, because India was exactly feeling the crime necessity of going into the defense pact with Russian Federation, that means Soviet Union, in order to maintain a balance of power in South Asia, because the war was taking place in South Asia. And without forming the government, a country like Soviet Union, Russian Federation could not exactly stand beside us. It was a clear message from the ambassador of Russian Federation to Bangladesh, Mr. Tajuddin, and Indian government, that until and unless the government is formed, the Russian Federation could not execute their diplomatic games, their diplomatic functions in the Security Council or General Assembly, exactly to stand in favor of Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, Professor Forhad. Yes, we are going for a short break. Viewers, we are going for a short break. We'll come to you again very soon. Thank you. Viewers, welcome to the talk show Promising Bangladesh, sponsored by Crown Cement, and we are at the final stage, and we are having talks with Mr. Mahbub Uddin Ahmed, veteran freedom fighter, and Bikram, and he was the former police officer. Another being Professor Forhad Hossain, Educationist and political analyst. Mr. Mahbub Uddin Ahmed, he worked closely with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and during the time, you know very well, so many turmoils are there. JASOD, JSD were born, and so many underground parties. They are playing many roles, and the government, in fact, was in a very challenging position indeed, and you played a vital role that time. Please, you just cast some ideas in the light of your relations with Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur.
Thank you very much for raising this issue. I would say I am one of the most lucky persons, a very, I would say, chosen person of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, because I had the opportunity of working with him very closely. And as you know, when this country was born, the freedom fighters had firearms without any license. Pakistan has abandoned a few hundred thousands on the street just like that, because they didn't know what to do with it. So those of us who were in the battlefield, we had our own arms, and we had specific directions from the government of Mr. Sayyid Nuzul Islam and Mr. Prime Minister Tajuddin Ahmed, that we should either go back to our previous profession, or the students should go back to the schools and colleges, and those who do not have any specific job, they should wait for further instructions at the militia camp, which was established in Dhaka University football ground. And at that time, I was the Deputy Secretary of Defense. I was posted at once I returned home from the battlefield, I returned to Dhaka on December 28th. And I was posted as Deputy Secretary of Defense on January. And my first thing was to distribute all these certificates, which were by this time printed. And first certificate was printed in the name of Mr. Taslim Ahmed. He was the Home Secretary, Defense Secretary at that. No, sorry, he was the Home Secretary, but although I was a Deputy Secretary, but this particular job was given to me because I was a freedom fighter. I know most of the freedom fighters who can become, change their stance in moments. So I had to tackle all of them. So this job was given to me. The first problem was the signature of Mr. Uddin. Because according to some of us, we felt that he was not with us during the war. The fact is, his job, he was chucked off from the job of the Inspector General of Police and sent to sort of a non-entity position. He was sent to Pakistan. And Bangabandhu brought him back when he returned and posted him as the Secretary of the Ministry of Home. So anyhow, this was my first job, to distribute certificates. And you know, the initial issue was such a big problem. Then this was changed and Mr. Osmani and, Bangabandhu, the signatures that you see. So that time my main problem as Deputy Secretary or as being part of the Ministry of Home was to maintain law and order. Because there were so many abundant firearms in the hands of everybody. And there was, fight between friends, brothers, known persons in moment's notice. That was a big challenge. I had to take care of them. I had recovered many, many firearms which were, buried under the ground. And this was all basically the job of Mr. Sirazul Alam Khan. And this gave an impetus to Siraj Sikdar. Because he was in totally underground during the war. He had fights with us. We were freedom fighters. He was fighting because he said this was a fight of, whatever called, rightists.
Between two devils.
Between two devils. So he was killing them. I had to face some of them in so many places. Mr. Khaled Bosra faced some of them in the battlefield. But finally, when the country became independent, the first opposite march started by Mr. Maulana Abdul Hamid Khan Bashari, calling and branding us as Indian Chok, agents of India. Those who fought, those with whom we lived for 9 months, those, even the Indian government took care of him. But the moment he came to Bangladesh, he started talking all kinds of nonsense against us, against India. So his people, the JSD people, because they fell off from Bangabandhu, he started, and all the people who were totally defeated on 16th of December, because they were supporters of Pakistan, like, Razakar, Al-Badr, Al-Shams, Jamaat Islam, Nizam Islam, all those branded people, they also joined with him. So they had used their firearms freely, wherever they could. So many police stations were raided and destroyed, this and that. And I was the SP at that time. So all these things I had to take care. And this situation was further aggravated when a portion of the armed forces under the leadership of Mr. Tahir, Colonel Tahir, started making that particular Bahini within the army who were talking against the government. So these people also joined with him. And they had their firearms. Remember. So all these things put together, when government of Sheikh Mujib was really put the entire country on the right foot to go ahead for development, when all the ingredients of running the government properly was in place, this artificial famine was created by the Americans because they never forgot the defeat of 16th December. Because it was, for them it was a defeat of the Americans, government, not the people. So they were waiting for a chance, and they took the chance to create havoc in the country, to change the total administrative picture. They became, from Joy Bangla, they became something else. From Bangladesh Betar, they became Radio Bangladesh. From, Bangladesh, Joy Bangla, they became Bangladesh Jindabad. So these were all very typical changes, but totally anti-Bangladesh independence. Virtually they became pro-Pakistan, and a certain portion of them wanted to bring back Pakistan, and their leader was Khandakar Mustaq, one who was also one of the few who was in the initial government. But he started his wrong diplomacy, conspiratorial activities, sinister works from the time Bangladesh movement had started, and he had become already foreign minister of Bangladesh, working from the soil of India. So these were the situations I had to tackle. And then, there was attempt at putting an agrarian base in the country, and Bangabandhu directed that every inch of land must be totally utilized for creation of crops, vegetables, fish, whatever.
I will come to you. Well, Professor Forhad Hossain, you listened to what Mr. Mahbub Uddin asserted, explained, and focused. What is your conclusion within the short period of time?
Thank you, Sinha bhai. I'd like to tell something about Jasad, because the loitering situation, lawlessness being created by Jasad, was strictly controlled by a strong leadership of Mahbub Ahmed Bikram, because he was in charge of a very important post, the SP of Dhaka. It was a tantamount challenge before him, Jasad, exactly JSD, formed the political teacher of this organization is Sirajul Alam Khan. And only less than 1 year, they formed a political party. Objective was very clear, to topple the government of Bangabandhu. So irresponsible, a country newly emerged as an independent country, so many problems, economic problems in infrastructure, problems in routes and communications, problems in recognition, problems, foreign donation, all these things. But the JSD was formed with irresponsible sentiment, and they opened army, very clandestine army, that is Gano Bahini. And they exactly with an objective of creating a journalism, yellow journalism, Gano Kanto. All these things were exactly, all these things machineries initiated by JSD. Objective was very clear, to topple the government of Bangabandhu. And I think that JSD Jasad exactly created have a very, very, very difficult situation for the government during the time. And I would like to salute him today, Mahbub Ahmed Bikram, that he took a very strong initiative. And these political, so-called political corners, they were not the politicians. They were creating unrest situation. They tried their level best to make stigma on the character of Mahbub Ahmed Bikram. But people were exactly submerged with this sort of sense, because it was a very, that lying has got a certain particular power. And when we started growing up, we started studying book. Then we exactly came to the contact of the real history. And today, I'd like to conclude to salute him once again, that this very great son of the soil took a very strong initiative during the time. Otherwise, Bangabandhu government had to exactly face more difficulties. And even though, the tragic death of our father of the nation, including his family members, and I think that Jasad exactly contributed a lot for this tragedy of the history. How we can exactly tolerate the killing of the father of the nation, who exactly are the architect of the Bengali nation, who is the best son of all times, the father of the nation. It is a tragedy. It is a tragedy in our history that we have to lose our father of the nation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mahbub, 1 minute for you. How do you feel about the present Bangladesh?
Well, you see, the greatest setback that we had in 75 had for 20 years tried to turn the tide against the Bengali nationalism and against the very concept of independent Bangladesh. you must be able to reveal it from the history, from the behavior of the Pakistani people and their cohorts in Bangladesh. It's very clear. But the fortunate thing for us is that we have the daughter of the father of the nation, who has again reversed their nefarious activities, sinister moves, to put Bangladesh on the right track for movement as a free country, for development of the resources for the poor people of the country. And to that extent, last few years, there has been tremendous achievement, no doubt. But I feel very unhappy when I see the kind of corruption and the kind of people who are not so patriotic. If a country does not have patriotic sound basis, the country cannot raise its heads. So far we have risen above the water. We can breathe. And if we can keep the pace of movement and development in the right track, well, today or tomorrow the political situation will also become congenial.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahbub, Uddin, Ahmed, and Professor Forhad Hossain. Viewers, we are about to end this talk show, and before ending the talk show, I have to summarize what the two speakers uttered, focused, and explained. From the very beginning of my show, I raised the question about the birth of Bangladesh and Bangladesh government in exile, meaning the provisional government of Bangladesh. There are so many terminologies there. And in fact, that government was born in Bangladesh. First of all, message to the world. Government was born on the very soil of Bangladesh, and it was this very Mahbub Uddin, the then SDOP of the subdivision. Then he rendered the guard of honor to the acting president of the provisional government of Bangladesh. And for that reason, I also salute you. And it is very much fortunate for him also that even after a long period of time, he is in a position to talk to you face to face, because still he is alive. And he has very big agonies about the birth and the continuance of Bangladesh, because today there are a lot of corruptions, a lot of irregularities, so many things are happening in the negative perspective. And he also, his heart is suffering, he is crying for all these things because he is a patriot. And he played a heroic role during that time. Then SP Dhaka means so many districts were there, the subdivision was there. Today there are more than 5 subdivisions there. There is no Metropolitan Police Commissioner, no police. It is Mahbub Uddin, who is known in the history as SP Mahbub. And Professor Forhad Hossain highly paid a tribute to him, because as an educationist and political analyst, he also feels he is talking not to Mr. Mahbub Uddin, he is talking to a person who is a part of the history of Bangladesh. And we believe so. And let us pray to Allah so that this country will move in such a mood that the world will see very soon that Bangladesh has come to light, not to survive only, but survive with the head high in pride, not hung down in shame. And thank you very much. We'll meet you again. Thank you.